I don't even want to be doing this right now, but I think it's the best thing I can do to fight hard against the noise going on in my head, even if it means opening myself up for embarrassment and ridicule. Because that's the thing, it's very embarrassing to admit what happened to me. I was shocked when I actually had to come to terms with the fact that I was scammed by someone that I loved. It felt serious to start with, it felt real, and I think this story has to be told, even if it's only a warning to a few people who won't look at me and call me an idiot. It felt like real love because I was in love. And because I was in love, I thought she loved me. I had a rush of emotions when I met her. I felt like we were connected together, and I had no suspicions that she was anything other than who I thought she was. She appeared genuine and honest, and to me, that first impression was the first impression that I hung on to throughout my entire time with her. I never considered myself to be gullible or naive, or I never considered myself to be someone who lacked confidence. I thought I could judge people and judge people's characters very well. I never had problems during my life to judge people and know who they were. So the fact that I have problems judging her just shows that love can trick you and make you do stupid things. It wasn't like I struggled getting into relationships back at home. It was more like I struggled keeping them because they never lived up to the expectations that I had and the thought of what a relationship should actually be. And I suppose because I thought I wasn't gullible, I thought I was street smart, I never believed that I could get scammed. And I suppose that's the same for everyone who gets scammed. They just don't think it's going to happen to them. Back at home, I always felt so lonely and invisible. But I think the best word to describe it is overlooked. It wasn't overlooked in the sense that I couldn't meet another woman for a relationship. It was overlooked in my beliefs about how that relationship should unfold. When it came to work, though, that was always boring. The dull routine I had to do every single day. And I know it's the same for everyone, but people handle things in different ways, and for me, the dull routine of monotony made things far worse. There was no stimulation. There was nothing changing around me to keep my brain in an active state. It's like my brain went to sleep when I was around, and I hated that feeling. I hated feeling lonely, and I still feel lonely today because I failed doing what I did to try to get away from that feeling. The Philippines was a place where I could finally be myself. I went for a visit quite a few years before I moved there, and I just felt right at home straight away. I'd never done traveling before, aside from a trip down to Mexico, but the excitement of being somewhere so different and so unique made me feel alive for the first time. When people describe feeling alive, it's often overlooked in a way that I now understand after what happened to me. It wasn't that I didn't feel alive at home. It just felt like I was alive, yet in the confines of a system that didn't make sense to me. In the Philippines, I was alive in a way that made sense to me, and I could act on my feelings and urges, whereas at home I couldn't. And that's what the Philippines meant to me. Especially Angeles City. That was my place, the place where I felt the most at home out of anywhere that I'd been. I loved Manila as well, of course I did, but Angeles City, that was my place. It wasn't necessarily that it was this amazingly beautiful city, but that's why it was good. The bars and the nightlife and everything that went along with being there, it just fit in to my mind's understanding of what the world should be. It was always so noisy and chaotic, and while there were things that you saw that you weren't comfortable with, those were just slight things that you had to overlook. I remember walking out of 7-Eleven and seeing a very young child begging, and that really struck me as being something awful. But that's one of those things that you have to accept and put up with if you want to be somewhere like that, because it comes in swings and roundabouts. Everything else about Angeles City, aside from the poverty that you saw on every corner, was amazing. I know some people will use what I said and try to fight back using my words to fight against me, by saying that because you like Angeles City, because you like what's going on there, that means you support the fact that people are poor. Because if they weren't poor, you wouldn't be able to do what you did there in the first place. I think that's a very shocking thing to say, and nothing like how I actually feel. The first nights there, though, were the best nights of my life. In terms of going there on vacation, those first few days there was everything I wanted my life to be from the moment I left high school. Yet I never had that level of exhilaration before. It was as if at home everything was turned down to a level that made it so boring, and you just had to get by and live your life in your own mind. I spent most of my life living in my own mind. In the Philippines, I didn't need to live in my own mind because there was enough excitement and stimulation around me to make me feel happy for the first time ever. Angeles City was everything I needed to fix the problems in my life. When I started living there, I spoke to lots of people who always gave warnings about things you had to be careful of. I did pay close attention to the guys who lived there for a long time, but I often looked at them as being jaded and bitter and bored of being there because they'd been there too long. As if they knew they could enjoy themselves, they knew what they could do, but they've done it so many times, it's been toned down again, so they're back in their own country, yet they're in the Philippines. I wasn't there yet, and I was still on sensory overload, and because these warnings were coming from guys like that, I just ignored them because I couldn't get what they were saying. It didn't feel right that they had these opinions, because when I was there, everything seemed to be the opposite of what they were trying to tell me. What I would say to anyone, if you're in a position like that, if someone's been there for a long time, even if you disagree with them, pay close attention to them and actually heed these warnings, even if you only keep them in the back of your mind as a way to look out for things that could happen, so you can second guess yourself when you find yourself doing something that could cost you everything. Everyone remembers going into a bar for the first time in the Philippines, and for me, it was the experience that fixed me. I think that's the only word I can actually use to describe it because that's what it felt like. Before, nothing made sense, and now everything made sense. It wasn't anything like doing something similar back at home, because back at home people didn't need to do that. But in the Philippines, it was available in a way that was acceptable and fun. But that first bar, you walk inside and see people smoking still. That was something people didn't do at home. People were smoking inside. You'd see rows of women standing on stage or sitting down as if they were happy to be there. Yet, were they? At the time, I thought they were. Every time someone would come into the bar, they would stand up, and it felt weird, but also exhilarating, and a kind of nervous energy that I never felt. Unreal, I think that's the best way to describe it, but also absolutely amazing. The first drink, who doesn't remember their first drink in the Philippines? I ordered a Red Horse, and they brought it over with that little tissue wrapped around it, and you've got to pull the tissue off. I always found that to be quite strange, but just one of those little nuances that went along with life in the Philippines. I didn't feel awkward or out of place. I just felt like I belonged somewhere for the first time in my life. And that's genuinely how it was. A feeling of belonging, a feeling of being able to relax and not worry about all the outside distractions happening. There were no distractions in the bar, and that's why I think I loved them so much. I kept going back to the bars regularly when I moved there, and I knew that my interest would fade over time and I would go from going every day to every other day, and then every 3 days, and then maybe once a week. But I'd only been there for a month, and that's when I noticed her. She was in a bar on Red Street, just the same as all the other bars, just the same as all the other girls, but the way she approached me just felt different. I felt like she was there by choice, not by necessity. And that changed everything for me. That changed the game, as if she was enjoying herself. I thought all the girls enjoyed themselves, but I thought she took it to the next level. And she looked so confident, and she didn't appear desperate. And it was like she knew what she was doing and what she wanted. And I wanted her. When we started talking, it didn't feel like any other bar girl experience that I had, and by that point, I'd had quite a few. The way she explained her background and what she did and where she was from, it was like she was better than the other girls. That's not the right word to use, but that's what it felt like. As if she was from somewhere not like everyone else. She didn't explain that she was from a poor background. She said she was from a wealthy family, but she just enjoyed what she was doing. And that made me even more drawn to her because that's what I wanted. I wanted her to be in a position where she was enjoying herself and I could enjoy myself too. I don't know why, but I believed everything she was telling me because it sounded so real. It started with a meeting, and then returning to the bar multiple times to go and have a drink with her and talk some more. I'm learning lots about her, and I'm starting to really like her. And after that, we go out to eat together at different restaurants around the city. Some of them nice, some of them cheap, It was as if she was happy going anywhere. I was carefree when I was with her. I wasn't thinking about anything else, and that's what I needed, was something to keep focus like that. In past relationships and also throughout my life, I'd always been in positions where my mind wandered between different things and different thoughts. Yet with her, when I was with her, my mind was still and focused on her. And to me, that meant that there was something between me and her, because I never felt that before. I'd probably known her and spent time with her for at least 2 weeks, but I'd never seen her in the daytime before. We'd never gone on an actual daytime date. And seeing her in her normal clothes was different and made me reaffirm the beliefs I had. Taking her away from the bar scene almost felt like I was doing her a disservice because she felt like she wanted to be there. But in the daylight, she just looked so pretty and beautiful, as if this was everything I needed. It was reinforcing the ideas that I had about her when I saw her in the daytime, and that made things even more serious. She knew that I moved permanently to live in Angeles City, and after 2 weeks, it might have been 3, she'd already moved into my place. It was so amazing to have an actual girlfriend living with me, but it felt different to the relationships I had at home because she was living with me, but I was still in charge. Because I was paying for everything, because she was with me, it was like she was with me, and I was with her, but in a different way. That's what it was like, and that's why I loved it so much. And before long, I'm really comfortable with her, and I'm really loving her and thinking that this is everything I need and everything I want. The way she acted around me, if I look back and actually try to come to terms with it, it was as if she knew exactly who I was. She could pick pieces out of my mind and use those little bits of information to develop a strategy to get me to do what she wanted me to do. But I didn't know that was going on. I didn't know people were so cruel. I just thought she looked up to me, and that's all I ever wanted, to be looked up to and respected by someone who I wanted to be with. The first week together turns into a month, and after 3 months I felt like this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. I talked about her if she'd like me to go and visit her family, to go and visit the province and see what that was like. When she said no, I sort of thought, never mind. But if I think about it now, the reason why she said no is quite obvious and quite apparent, but at the time it wasn't. It was just, no, I'd rather not, I'm a bit uncomfortable, my family are very traditional. And I just said, okay. I should have pushed it a bit though, because it was a family and other things like that caused me to lose everything and get scammed. So her not wanting me to go and see her family should have been a huge red flag, but I didn't see it as one. I just respected the fact that she said her family were very traditional. I can even remember her saying that her father didn't really like foreigners very much, claiming he was very strict, and again, always using tradition as the reason. It sounded very believable, and there was no point pushing, so I didn't push. No point. One place that we did go together was Palawan. Beaches so beautiful that I thought I was literally living in a dream. I'd never seen such clear blue water and white sand, and it was amazing walking along the beach with her, hand in hand. It felt like a romantic notion that people talked about, but they didn't actually do. But here I was actually doing it with her. We'd share drinks at night sitting on the beach, and it felt like life was perfect. And I was certain that she was the one I was going to spend the rest of my life with. Certain that me and her would live forever in Angeles City. After a few days on the island and continuing to walk the beach with her, I felt like my life had reset. I felt like it had started again, like I'd managed to click a button, and all of a sudden, now I could start the way I wanted to start. The best way that I can describe this is to use the analogy of a video game. My life always felt like I was playing the game and I was close to the end, yet I was looking for ways to complete it, because at the start I hadn't actually set it up properly. But now it was reset and I was starting from the start. So every decision moving forward was only meant to make things better because I hadn't made the mistakes to start with. That's the analogy I would use and the best way to describe it. As I said, when we met, she said she was from a successful family that were very wealthy. And every time she talked about her family, she'd mention the business and what they did. She showed pictures of what the business was. She showed pictures of her family posing with local officials, and she claimed that they made a lot of money. The way she talked about it and the way she presented herself as well appeared like what she was saying was true. You can usually tell if someone comes from money or not, and she managed to present herself in a way that appeared like she did. Some people will say, well, there was no way she would be working in a bar like that if she was from wealth. And I get that now, looking back. But at the time, the way she described it was she just enjoyed being in that position. She just enjoyed looking for guys like me and thought that guys like me would make her life better. Why would I not believe that? And one thing that you do, and I am guilty of it as well, is comparing her to all the other girls that I spent time with. All of the other girls seemed to be the same when it came to the questions they asked and the things they talked about. Yet she was different. Because she talked about bigger things and larger things going on in the world, like she was switched on and these other girls weren't. And perhaps I had a sense of pride in myself that I thought I found someone better than everyone else. Feeling like I was lucky, whereas other guys were with girls who didn't come from money, so therefore I must be a cut above them. I felt like our bond just got stronger the more we stayed together. After that trip to Palawan, that's when things became even more serious. I expected her to always remain that way. She was always loyal, at least at the start, and I never felt stressed when I was in her company. I never felt like I had to plan ahead when I was with her because she was always willing to do what I wanted to do in a way that she would enjoy as well. And life over the following months, for me, just got better and better. And I couldn't believe that I was actually in this position. I couldn't believe I felt so lucky. One glaring red flag that I should have cottoned on to almost straight away was the fact that I was paying for everything, and I was helping her with a little bit of money every now and then. I paid for the rent when she moved in with me, I paid for all the meals, and she didn't give anything. And then I had to ask her, well, if you come from money, why aren't you paying for anything? And the way she described it was, well, it's the Philippines, and you're the man, I'm the girl, that's how it works. And it made so much sense to me. Because back at home, that's what I wanted a relationship to be. So she was reaffirming my beliefs in the relationship. But I was thinking if I ever got married to her, then yes, I would have a benefit from all the wealth of her family. That's what I was thinking, and I was actually holding on to that as being a real possibility. She always claimed, though, to be happy and proud and independent, and she never asked for large amounts of money from me. I did give her money all the time, but it wasn't like she expected it. It was just as a way for me to show love to her, where she could show love to me in different ways, and I thought that's what it was about. Sometimes she refused money when I offered it to her, saying, no, I don't need any at the moment. So it wasn't like she was doing anything other than being real. Now, some guys would call that the long game, saying that was what her belief was all along. That was what her intention was all along, making you fall in love with her, making it appear that she doesn't want anything, and because of that, you're more likely to give things because it becomes about your idea and not hers. That was the trick that she was playing, but I didn't see it. I didn't even see it when I was being scammed, and I didn't even see it after I'd been scammed. It took me a long time to come to terms with the fact that that was what happened. We were still together after a year, and I believed it was serious. I didn't think anyone would stay with someone for a whole year if they didn't love them or like them, and it wasn't like we actually did things that cost me a lot of money. We didn't spend that much money, and she wasn't trying to get money out of me, and that's why it's even more difficult to understand. We were already engaged when the first year of our relationship came up. We got engaged 6 months before, but we never seemed to progress any further than that. I always dreamed of meeting her family and hoping that I could have conversations with them and actually join the family myself. And we had so many plans and dreams that it felt like we were just building a normal life. I was 62. She was 21. I didn't see that as being a problem. Looking back, of course I do, because she was younger than my oldest daughter. But that wasn't a problem at the time because I felt that's what she wanted. If she wanted it, then I was happy with it. I wouldn't have wanted it if she wasn't happy. And if she makes herself appear to be happy, who am I to believe otherwise? She was always really proud when she was talking about her family's business. They were in construction, is how she explained it, and the family owned quite a few different companies. She kept talking about it all the time as a way to say, I'm not like all the other girls, I'm real and I love you. And if she says that so many times, then of course I'm going to believe her. Everything she said matched with reality of how things actually happened. So it wasn't like she was explaining something in a way that it didn't actually happen. It was as if she came from money and she was just enjoying herself in these amazing bars. One day, she said she wanted to introduce me to her family's lawyer over a video call, and I thought that was a very exciting step for us to take. When I was speaking to this guy before I actually started to speak with him, I thought it was going to be him looking at me and making a determination as to whether I was suitable or not and taking his opinions back to the family, as if to say, yes, this guy's great, he's perfect for your daughter, you should meet him. That's what I thought it was about. He was very professional when I spoke to him, he was obviously very well knowledged, and he looked to be someone who was trustworthy. He spoke clearly and he was very confident in his words, but he wasn't talking about her. He started talking about business opportunities in the family, and it felt very official. He impressed me when he spoke to me, and it wasn't as if he was trying to get things out of me. He was just pointing out that this is what the family is, this is what they do, and if you want to be a part of it, well, maybe you could, but you need to know what happens in the family first. It felt so great because I thought it was an in. I thought I was actually being introduced into their world, and soon I'd get married to her, and after that, I would get benefit from being in this wealthy family. I started picturing myself as an actual member of the family. Maybe I could even join the business, maybe I would get a job, and I started to think that I would have so much more money because I was introduced to her, because I was living with her, and because we were in love. I expected financial benefit from this, and the fact that what I thought was going on was the exact opposite of what was. It's so embarrassing to talk about, because looking back, I don't know how I could even harbour these opinions. After I spoke to him for the first time, I was very excited at the prospect of being welcomed into the family. From there, I actually went out with my girlfriend for a meal. We went out to celebrate, and I told her how happy I was to have spoken to him and asked her what the next step was. When were we going to get married? She just said that, well, that's going to come soon, but he wants to speak to you again. The family want to get to know you a bit better, and they think the best way is by you speaking to the lawyer and seeing if you're actually genuine and real about me. Again, the way she's describing this is exactly the opposite of what's going on, as if I had to prove myself in a way to her, as if I had to prove myself to the family, and the lawyer was the intermediary who was going to determine if I was an acceptable match or not. This is all the thoughts I'm having. I didn't know it was an elaborate scam. How would I know that this was an elaborate scam? The next time I spoke to him, he mentioned that the family was seeking investments into their business. He mentioned a figure close to $10 million and said you don't need to put the rest in, but if you're interested, the family would more than appreciate it. That was the first time it was mentioned, and I didn't think much of it because back at home, my money was already invested, about $300,000. I was getting about 5 or 6% at the time. I had actually just taken a bit of a hit on that investment and the income had dried up a bit, but I wasn't thinking that I was going to be investing in their business yet. I just wanted to speak about it and understand it more. After I spoke to the lawyer for the second time, I remember going out with my girlfriend and asking what this was all about. She wasn't in the meeting I had with him, and when I explained it to her, she just looked and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't want my family to actually ask you to get involved with the business. That's a bit too far. They don't know you yet. But they are currently seeking investments in the business. If you invested, I think they pay 8%. I don't know too much. I want my own independence. I love being where I am. I'll tell them not to again." I brought it back straight away to the fact that I thought that the lawyer was sizing me up. If I was suitable for you, when are we going to get married? And she said she'll put her family straight and she'll tell the lawyer to next time talk about that. She was very good either way because I believed everything she was saying. I had no doubt in my mind that what she was saying was true. And I actually felt like because she said that, I wanted to learn more about this investment because 8% sounded quite attractive compared to the 4% that I was currently getting at the moment. I'd taken a tank from 6% to 4%, and that's why this sounded even more appealing. The thought of getting $2,000 income a month from this investment, it was very appealing and attractive. And the fact that she appeared to not want me to get involved, that made me feel like it was real. So I'm thinking about two things now. This investment's always in the back of my mind, and also I want to speak to the lawyer again in order to try to arrange the marriage. So next time I spoke to him, I said right up front, before he even had a chance to say anything, I want to discuss the marriage. I've been waiting to get married and I just want the family's approval. What's it going to take? He just brushed me off and said, well, that's not really any of my business. That's between you and the family. But the family want to understand if you're going to invest in this business or not. If you do invest, you're going to get your return and they will know you're serious about their daughter. That's what bothered me, was her. The thought of making more money as well also appealed to me. And there weren't any outrageous claims like you're going to double your money in a day or something. There was none of that. It was just a stable 8% return. I saw pictures of the construction sites that they'd worked on. I saw their yard where they kept all their equipment. And I saw pictures of the family and they looked so successful. I saw pictures of those people with my girlfriend, so it must have been true. And I'm starting to think if I made this investment, I'm going to make more money, and then, finally, I'll be able to meet the family, and finally, I'll be able to get married. The calls with the lawyer went on all the time. I must have spoken to him 10 times. The 10th call, or the 11th, I don't know which one, that's not important. But he started showing me official documents. Now, I think it's worthwhile putting official in inverted commas because I don't know if they were official, but they all appeared to be stamped correctly. He always displayed all the papers, and he always talked about his talks with the family as if to say, yes, this guy's serious, so what are we going to do? He always told me that when he spoke to the family, he always gave me really good reviews as if this is a person that you want in your family. And I actually thanked him for that because I felt like he was on my side. Around this time, me and my girlfriend went back to Palawan for another visit. And it was there when I was feeling so happy drinking on the beach again and walking on the white sands in the crystal ocean. My girlfriend looked at me and said, "Are you going to invest the money?" And then she said something that made me take a step back and think, what's going on? She said, "I don't think you should invest the money. I don't really want my family to take your money. I want you to have your money and share it with me. We can be a family together. I want to run away from my family and never talk to them again. I think they're pressuring you into doing something you don't want to do, and I don't like that." When she said that, I didn't know what to say. But my first reaction was just to say, no, you can't say that. You've got to respect your family. Your family love you and they want what's best for you, and I want what's best for you. If it means me having to invest this money, then I probably will, because I need a better return than I'm getting now anyway, and 8%, that sounds very realistic. She asked me if I was sure, and I said, I think I am. I've been thinking about it for a very long time, and I do think I will invest, because everything sounds so great, and if that means also that we can be closer with your family, I can meet them, maybe I can get involved with the business, and maybe I could even get a job with the business. I might have been old, but I was still thinking big. I thought I would go, I would do it. And she said, if you want to, it's your choice, but I'm not pushing you towards it. I said okay, and we didn't talk about it until we got back to Angeles City. The next time I spoke to the lawyer, I told him I was going to invest. He said, great. He just told me where to send the money. He sent me some official-looking paperwork that had already been signed and stamped, and I signed it and sent it back. It felt nerve-wracking when I was sending the money, but at the same time exciting, because the thought of getting 8%, the thought of getting stuck in with the family's business and becoming a part of the family, those feelings overrode any feelings of worry that I was having. And I perhaps should have moved closer to the feelings of worry to prevent myself from doing what I was about to do. But I did. I sent it. I invested. And I was excited and couldn't wait to see what was going to come next. I felt proud. I really did. I felt proud that I was going to be part of her family. And I was expecting to actually go and see her family after I made the investment, but she just kept saying, eventually you can meet them, but they're very busy at the moment on a particular project, so we'll go and see them when the time's right. Then I brought back the topic of marriage. Where were we going to live? I liked the idea of living closer to their family. I often expected that they would give us a house to live in because they were so wealthy. And the thought of not having to pay rent and live in a nice house for free, that made me excited. I thought my life was completely set in stone, about to happen for the better, and everything was moving in the best direction. Everything was so happy and exciting in the moment, and I'm there with her in Angeles City, thinking that I'm the luckiest person in the world. I can remember telling a friend that I'd invested. I told him what the opportunity was, how I'd met her, and how she was different to everyone else. She was wealthier, and I was so proud of it. I told him I felt really smart, that I'd believed her from the beginning, and because of that, I was going to benefit. I mean, he did look at me like I'd made a bit of a mistake, but he didn't want to say anything. He just said, very good, I hope it works out for you. But if I actually read his face properly, I think he wanted to say goodbye to your money, but he didn't. People wouldn't say that, would they? Things felt the same, though, after I sent the money. I was still with her, she was still living with me, and there were no immediate red flags. I spoke to the lawyer and everything looked good, and he told me I should feel secure, because at the end of the month, that's when my first payment was going to arrive. The first day of the month comes and there wasn't a payment. I remember checking my account, expecting to see the $2,000 drop. I mean, it was the peso equivalent, of course. But I checked it and it didn't arrive, and I thought, that's not a worry, it'll come soon. It hadn't arrived by the end of the day, so I asked her about it. And she just said, don't worry, it's sometimes delayed. So that's all I thought. It's probably a delay. Don't worry about it. After a few days, I'm just looking at my bank all the time. The money's not arriving, and I'm just second-guessing myself now. The stress is growing, and I'm continuously waiting for updates. She was still living with me and telling me not to worry, and because of that, I think I was still clinging on to hope that this was going to happen. I was excited, though, but mostly nervous, because not getting anything by the 5th of the following month, that was a worry. It wasn't meant to be delayed that long, but she just kept saying sometimes it is, don't worry about it. Sometimes the money comes earlier. The lawyer told me the same thing, so I did try to loosen up, but it was nerve-wracking because all my money was on the line. When those 5 days turned into a week, and then 2 weeks later there's nothing, she looked upset because she felt bad for me, saying, I told you shouldn't have invested because you're getting worried. I can't be bothered to look at you when you're worried. I told you it could be delayed. I told you not to invest. And it was as if she used that as a weapon against me, as if to say, I told you not to invest, so you can't say anything to me. But the problem was, I was panicking now. I was talking with her all the time, and now I can't get in touch with the lawyer anymore. She was upset with me for talking about it too much, telling me I shouldn't have invested. I told you not to, because I knew if something happened like this, you're going to do this. That made it feel uncomfortable, because I felt like by being upset and by worrying about it, I was actually doing her a disservice. So I had to apologize to her and say, I don't mean to make you feel bad. I just want to get this first payment and everything will be good. After I didn't get a payment for a month, that's when I started to actually realize that this was a scam. But she was still with me. I can remember talking about it to the guy I spoke about it with before, telling him I haven't got the payment yet. And he tried to tell me in, I think, the kindest way possible that I think you should actually come to terms with the fact that you're not going to get that money back. You've probably been scammed. The way he explained it, the way he said it, that's when it hit me that perhaps this was a scam after all. I couldn't believe it when I actually started to realize that it had all the hallmarks of a scam, and I was so into it, I was so in my mind that this was great, that I didn't even stop to think about it. That same day, I had to confront her and ask her exactly what had happened. I told her, I think this is a scam, and I think you're involved with it. I need to know the truth. She didn't appear panicked or concerned when I said that. She just said, I told you not to invest. I really told you to, but you did anyway. I'm not sure what's going on. I can't get in touch with my family as well. I think you need to forget about it and just move on, and when it comes, it comes. That was when I knew it was a scam, the way she said that. But I don't understand why she was still there with me. It was as if she wasn't part of it and she wanted to distance herself from it. When I told her, I think you're involved, tell me the truth, then she looked a bit shocked, as if to say, how can you even think that? I tell you what, she said, tomorrow, let's go and meet my family. I'll take you to visit them. Then you can see it's not a scam, and then you'll understand when you're going to get the money. It could be delayed. Don't worry about it. I got a bit of comfort when she said that, thinking, okay, maybe finally I'll get to the bottom of this. But the next day I woke up and she was long gone. She'd taken all her things, I couldn't contact her, and it was over. I approached the police about it, telling them what happened, and they said, give us some information. And the weeks went by and nothing happened. Nothing happened about it. It was like they didn't care. The problem was, though, I didn't have any money left. I had a few $1,000s in my Philippines bank, and that was it. And that was when I realized that I had to go home. I couldn't even stay where I wanted to be anymore. I was bankrupt. I lost everything, and I was scammed of everything I had. I returned to the States with nothing, and I got back to work at my age even though I should be retired because I was scammed. It took me a long time to even build up the courage to talk about this. It took me a long time to come to terms with what happened, and I still haven't really come to terms with it. But I'm sharing this as a warning that you could be scammed. If you love someone, they could still scam you. So be careful, and don't let happen to you what happened to me, because I can tell you, it's the worst thing in the world.